With the fantasy football playoffs starting for many people this week, you might look across the board and look at your opponent and see that you're projected to lose by 8 or 9 points. Well, you know what the best way to make that number better and to swing the matchup in your favor is? Defense and kickers, baby. We go through it every single Tuesday, both rankings, and I do it every single week. And I'm one of the only fantasy YouTubers who covers kickers every week. So make sure to go down there, drop a like on the video, and subscribe to the channel to show your support. Now, getting into our first tier right here, Jason Myers belongs here, and I just gotta say this, Jason Myers has clearly exceeded my expectations for him. I mean, this guy, I've struggled with his inaccuracies for his entire career, and it doesn't matter. And I've been saying this for a long time. When you're on an offense that's so good, that every time they have possession, they're either going to get down there in field goal range and stall out, or they're going to score a touchdown, you're a guaranteed lock, basically, to get 1 point at the very minimum on every single possession. And he's hit all of his extra points, 42, and he's hit 31 out of 36 field goals. This guy has had over 70 kicks made this year. You do not understand the value of Jason Myers yet. 12.2 fantasy points per game. That's like a RB2 or a wide receiver 2. This is an enormous swing that he can make, and he's taking on the Colts, who have Phillip Rivers, and it is official that it is going to be entertaining, but I don't think it's going to work this week, and I think the Seahawks will have their way. With the Colts, and Jason Myers will do great. Cameron Dicker at number 2 goes to Kansas City to take on the Chiefs. What we saw on Monday night from Cam Dicker was basically about perfect. Like, this guy is on an offense that Justin Herbert is clearly not at full strength. Their offensive line still can't protect him, and so what happens a lot of time is Herbert is still good enough to get him down there, and with the addition of Amarian Hampton back into the lineup, they've got enough talent to move the ball down the field. But then what happens is he gets sacked, or he throws an incomplete pass because he's got pressure in his face, and it results in a 4th down kick. And that's exactly what's going to happen moving forward with Cam Dicker. He's one of my favorite new kickers for the playoffs right now. Going to Kansas City in a must-win situation for both of these teams, I do not see how this one is a bad opportunity to take. Brandon Aubrey at number 3. I will say this right now. Brandon Aubrey, I owe a public apology to Tyler Sperry because I said to play Fairbairn over Aubrey last week, and I really hope you did not, because Aubrey was absolutely phenomenal, and he proved me wrong. I said, I don't know if he has that 20-point ceiling anymore like he used to, and the reason I said that is because Dallas had been so effective on 3rd down, and they went for it on 4th down a lot, to the point where he wasn't kicking as many field goals. Well, he only kicked 1 extra point last week and 5 field goals. So now I kind of look back and I'm like, okay, well, what is it going to be like moving forward since this team is desperate to make a playoff spot? 23-point week against the Lions. Then he takes on the Minnesota Vikings defense this week, which is, again, very good. They're better defense than the Detroit Lions are. It's just a matter of, does their dam break because their offense can't move the ball either. So I do not know exactly what to think of this one, but I know I'm putting him inside of tier 1 and having him in the top 3 because we know the ceiling is still there, much to my chagrin. Not to my chagrin, I just was not expecting it. Kaimi Fairbairn at number 4 to round out the tier, and I still believe in Fairbairn a lot. I mean, this guy, his floor is what he's been hitting recently, and his last 2 weeks, I mean, you've got an 8-point week this past week and a 9-point week the previous week. Like, this guy's floor is basically this area. His ceiling, on the other hand, that's where you can get like 18 points out of him. So I don't think of it any matchup as a bad matchup because the Texans are one of the hottest teams, if not the hottest in the NFL. They're going to move the ball enough to give Kaimi Fairbairn 2 to 3 field goal opportunities on a per-game basis. This week against the Arizona Cardinals, it's one of those matchups I just want to take advantage of from every fantasy football perspective, particularly the kicker in Houston, who is always viable. Dropping down to our next tier, I've got Eddie Pinheiro making his likely return for the San Francisco 49ers, taking on the Tennessee Titans at home. So Eddie Pinheiro is a guy that was doing really well in fantasy, if you don't remember, until he went down with injury, much like the 49ers' entire team did just several weeks ago. So Eddie Pinheiro has been pretty perfect this year. He's missed 4 extra points, but all field goals, including a 59-yard long field goal. This guy has been really, really good. 10.4 fantasy points per game. So again, keep an eye on the injury report. I kind of think he's going to come back this week after their bye week, and it's against the Titans, who I do not think are going to slow down this offense. Now, on the other hand, I was asked in the defense rankings, why aren't the 49ers in these rankings? That wasn't a mistake. I'll just leave it at that, and we can decipher it later on. I think the 49ers are going to score enough points, though, and they're always going to give you opportunities to have a really good ceiling for your kicker. And this week, I hope it's Eddie Pinheiro. Chris Boswell at number 6 to round out this tier. He's playing the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football in Pittsburgh. Now, this one, to me, it feels like it should be a Pittsburgh win. So I do think the Steelers will get down there enough. And I don't know, their offense is so inconsistent. I don't trust what we saw against the Ravens, but I do trust the Miami Dolphins being not as good on the road in Pittsburgh in December. I don't trust that. And I do think that Mike Tomlin has a lot to fight for in this game on Monday night. He does not want to get embarrassed by the Miami Dolphins. So Chris Boswell is going to continue to get into range. I doubt the offense will be as efficient scoring touchdowns this week, and I think Boswell probably has more field goals than extra point opportunities this week. But I do think a lot of these kickers, particularly Eddie Fairbairn, are going to be on waivers. And once again, if you need to swing your matchup, this is the best kept secret in fantasy football. You go utilize our automatic waiver tool, and you do not have to wake yourself up at 3 in the morning to go grab the best remaining free agents after priority waivers run through. It's over. You sleep through the night, and you still beat everyone else to the wire. Best kept secret in fantasy football, along with my top 280 rankings on a weekly basis, along with the comparison feature and the league sync-up feature on the site. And make sure to utilize our start-sit polls on the site as well. You could do all that at fsroundup.com with a premium subscription. Dropping down to our next tier, Tyler Loop of the Baltimore Ravens going to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals, and Evan McPherson in this matchup. Now, Tyler Loop is on an offense that you cannot trust still. But one thing is good, because Lamar Jackson is still good enough to give you opportunities to get down there in the range. And of course, Cincy's defense is not reliable whatsoever. So the one thing you could kind of count on a weekly basis is that this offense will get you down there. And the last several weeks for Tyler Loop have been really good games. I wouldn't say they're enormous, but his last 5 games, 14 points, 12 points, 11 points, 2 points, and 10 points. He's done nothing but give you really good upside games. So I do think against the Bengals, it's just a matchup I want to take advantage of, because the Ravens are also in a must-win position now as well. Evan McPherson, last time he played Baltimore, the guy got 20-plus points. I want the matchup because Baltimore's defense is not good, and the Bengals are moving the ball. Now, I know Evan McPherson didn't do that well last week in fantasy because they were scoring touchdowns against the Bills. What if they have a more field goal dominant game again in a divisional matchup? I like divisional matchups for kickers in particular, and that's why I think Evan McPherson has to be in the top 10 again this week. Chase McLaughlin at number 9. Playing the Atlanta Falcons at home on Thursday night. Now, this matchup, I actually think that the Atlanta kicker is not a terrible option either. He's not in the top 12, though, just to save you some time. I do think Chase McLaughlin is definitely the superior option in this matchup because Tampa's offense is still more talented, and I would expect them to do better in this game than the Atlanta Falcons offense. They've got talent coming back from the playmaker's perspective. Obviously, you've got Chris Godwin, who's coming back to full speed. Emeka Egbuka, still a threat, definitely not as good. Bucky Irving is definitely a threat. Maybe Mike Evans makes it back this week. Either way, I do just see the Atlanta Falcons quitting at this point because they have no shot. So Chase McLaughlin, the last several games, been hit or miss. This feels like a week that he hits. But he has to be in this tier because I don't have full confidence in him. Cam Little at number 10 to round out the tier, taking on the New York Jets in Jacksonville this week. Doesn't feel like this one's going to bust. Now, the only thing, again, of why Cam Little is not in the tier above him is because Cam Little is not in position where I could trust him either. He's had good opportunities this year, and he's come up with 0 points. So this is a guy I don't fully trust yet. I don't fully trust the offense yet to not stall out, because that's the thing. Jacksonville's offense has been really efficient lately. So what if he only kicks 4 extra point attempts and no field goals in this game? I've got to mitigate that risk a little bit. I do think it's a great matchup from an offensive perspective, but maybe from the kicker perspective, it could be a little bit better because I don't think the Jets are going to stop them from many field goal opportunities if any at all. Dropping down to our last tier, Brandon McManus makes his return to the top 12 because he's going to Denver this week. So first of all, Denver's one of the best places to kick in the NFL because of the thin air. I mean, that makes it much easier for any kick to kick through even wind circumstances. You put them in that kind of air condition and you could kick some long field goals. Brandon McManus is used to that as well. He played in Denver for many years. Number 2, this feels like a matchup where the Packers are going to stall out in drives because they're playing one of the best defenses in the National Football League. I do not expect Brandon McManus to kick 5 extra point attempts. What I expect is 2 or 3 field goals with 1 extra point attempt. I do not think this is Green Bay's best offensive day, but I think it's going to be a good one for a kicker. The only reason he's down here is because of inaccuracy issues he's struggled with and the fact that maybe Green Bay just continues their hot streak because they've been a dominant offense of recent. But I do ultimately think it's a solid play this week. Cairo Santos is at 12 to round us out. He's taking on the Cleveland Browns at home. Now, I do think Cairo Santos is still someone I would rather put my trust behind over a guy like Harrison Butker, who's been inaccurate, or Andy Bereglis, who's playing the Bills this week. I think I'd rather do this one with Cairo Santos because he's playing Cleveland's defense, who actually is getting worse. So I do think that this opportunity is not nearly as dangerous as many people think. But if it is one of those situations where they shut down Caleb a couple times, and maybe there's just not as much firepower in this game from the Bears' offensive passing perspective, it could be one of those situations where they make them stall out a couple drives in this game. Ultimately, either way, I do think Santos will have enough opportunities to give you 9 to 10 points in this game. So let me know what you think of the rankings in the comments below, and if you want to see the top 12 defense rankings for the week, click on this video right here.